Hello and welcome to the panel discussion of the Kashish Trans Fest, a day-long film festival organized by Kashish Mumbai International Queer Film Festival in association with In Harmony and Tweet Foundation. This particular film festival basically is supposed to celebrate the International Transgender Day of Visibility, and we're really happy to host this panel discussion which discusses transgender lives and issues, and really happy to welcome Anupama Ishwaran. This panel discussion is being moderated by Anupama Ishwaran, founder of In Harmony, a boutique Mumbai-based diversity and inclusion consultancy. Anupama also helms the Trans East webinar series, which is being done in association with Tweet Foundation, who is also going to be the recipient of the proceeds of this particular panel discussion and all the films which are being shown as part of Kashish Trans Fest. Thank you so much, Anupama, for making this happen, and welcome to the panel.
Thank you, Sridhar, for that warm introduction. And good evening, everyone. I'm truly delighted to be here to moderate this panel discussion on the occasion of Transgender Day of Visibility, and also on behalf of Kashish Mumbai International Queer Film Festival, which has put together this panel on trans empowerment and livelihood, and to just look at what has been the journey in the last few years. And we have some really great people here with us today on this panel discussion. I'll first start with introducing Vehan. Vehan Pitambar is part of the diversity and inclusion team within the human capital management at Goldman Sachs services in India, and he's based in Bengaluru. He was awarded the 2020 Diversity and Inclusion Champion of Change Award by Community Business, recognizing his commitment in advancing D&I in the workplace and beyond in India. So Vihan is also an expert committee member of India's first National Council for Transgender Persons and was previously a member of the Ernakulam Transgender Justice Board, where he worked closely with the Social Justice Department to implement Kerala's transgender policy. And we all know that Kerala has done a lot for the transgender empowerment. He co-founded the first community-based organization for trans masculine persons in Kerala called Malayali Trans Men Association, and sits on the boards of other community-based organizations like Querela, an LGBTQIA plus organization, and Dvaya Transgender Arts and Charitable Society in Kerala. So Vihan is an International Visitor Leadership Program Fellow and earned a Master of Science degree in Communication and an Advanced Diploma in Globalization and Human Rights from Stockholm University. Vihan, welcome to this panel discussion. Our next panelist is Simran Sheikh. Simran is a trans woman. She has dedicated her professional life to human rights advocacy. Simran is currently working as Director for Trans Health Accelerate at Johns Hopkins University. She is also a co-founder of RWS India's Diverse Chamber, where she promotes LGBTQI entrepreneurs to the global market. She holds a master's degree in social work and is currently pursuing her PhD in trans psychology from Mumbai University. She has been an author for several journal articles and has published many technical papers for transgender people. Welcome, Simran, to this panel discussion. Our next panelist is Shubha Chaku. Shubha is a joyful, yes, that is, I think, Shubha, your introduction is, I mean, so joyful actually to read it itself. She's a joyful activist who draws strength, knowledge, and warmth from the strong alliances and friendships forged with people from different walks of life. She's the executive director of Solidarity Foundation, an NGO that supports grassroots level organizations of sexual and gender minorities and sex workers by building collectives, capacities, and connections. She has been recognized as a global diversity leader, Times Ascent Award at World HRD Congress, Mumbai in 2017. Shubha is also a researcher and has authored books, reports, and articles, and has been an invited speaker at many national and international conferences. She has a master's degree in social work from Tata Institute of Social Sciences. Shubha, welcome to this panel discussion. I'm really looking forward to hearing you. Aditya Batavia, our next panelist, is a DEI specialist at ThoughtWorks. He's also a board member of Tweet Foundation, an expert panelist for Global Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Benchmarking Report. He works for empowerment of trans community, and his dream is to build an ecosystem where everyone is respected for who they are. Aditya, welcome to this panel. And our last panelist is Anubhuti Banerjee. Anubhuti is a manager analytics at Tata Steel, leading applications of data science and machine learning for marketing and sales. She's a former DAD German Academic Exchange Fellow and a Mingle Young LGBT plus leader. In 2018, she founded and leads Wings, the LGBTQ plus employee network at Tata Steel, a pioneer in the Tata Group and the Indian manufacturing industry. Her efforts led to the implementation of a comprehensive LGBTQ plus policy at Tata Steel, and her work has been featured prominently in various Tata Group publications and initiatives. A few years back, she went on a quest to have others see her in her true gender, has since been working with various prominent organizations, platforms, and journals in their efforts to make workplaces and the society fairer, more inclusive, and more representative of trans queer people, as well as always learning and sharing her Anubhuti experience of what it means to be a self-made woman of steel today. Wow, Anubhuti, that's a fabulous introduction, and welcome to all of you. I think with this kind of a panel, we're really going to have a very, very energetic and interesting conversation. So I'm going to start with my first question, which is to all of you that, since in the last 10 years in India, we've seen an accelerated growth of the transgender movement. In 2014 came the NALSA judgment, which recognized transgender as a third gender. And then we had in 2019 the Transgender Persons of Protection Rights Act. So tell me, what is a shift that you all have seen with respect to this movement of transgender rights, and how has it impacted in the corporate world? So we can start with Anubhuti. Let's start with you. We'll go in the reverse order.
Yeah. Hi, Anupama. Such a wonderful introduction. Thank you so much. And it is such a privilege to be part of this day. It's such an important and momentous day for all trans people because it celebrates something that we all have very passionately pursued, which is visibility. Talking about visibility in the last few years, like you mentioned, there has been a lot more visibility of trans people in the last decade. I would say the decade that just passed from 2010 to 2020. If I am talking of global events, the word they, which is used in a non-gender specific format, was chosen as the word of the whole decade by the Oxford Dictionary, which definitely shows how much issues of gender and identity have progressed to a forefront of the social and cultural milieu. What I would find in India, we found some very encouraging initiatives, very encouraging. The NALSA judgment, which came in 2014, right in the middle of the decade, was one of the most momentous occasions for the entire transgender community in India as well as abroad. At the point when it was passed, India was one of the 10 countries only which had such a good policy, which had such a good law which supported trans people being able to identify themselves as they wanted without having to go through medical and other procedures, which was really, really heartening. I think it was also the moment of reckoning for a lot of trans people. I can say my own personal journey was at that point of time boosted heavily when I knew that legal recognition was going to be much, much more simpler. Later on, we had a long drawn process about the Transgender Act, which now is here. There were certain parts of it which weren't really, we could say, weren't really palatable to a lot of trans people. But then ultimately, we've reached a stage, and the upside of it is that we are finally recognizing that trans people and the necessities of trans people are now enshrined in law. So no one can actually turn a person back just because they're trans. So I think that is one of the most positive things that I have seen. And it has had its effects on corporates, like we are going to talk, I'm pretty sure, in this occasion. Over to someone else.
Thanks, Anubhuti. So clearly what you're saying is the legal recognition has given a huge impetus to the transgender movement in the country. Aditya, what is your view? How do you see this shift?
So I see is that the law has changed, society has not. When 2014, when Nalsa judgment came, no one knew about it. Even if someone is go for documentation change and everything, like passport used to follow their own rules, Aadhaar used to follow their own rules, and they have not recognized Nalsa there. Even if it was there in the law, if you go there and say that I want to change my gender in the PAN card or a passport, they are still asking for surgery certificate, right? So it has not changed. 2019, I would say that this recent transgender bill has came, but how many people are aware about it? And to build that awareness and to see that whether actually the change has happened, it will take another decade, I would say. So that if you see at the grassroots level, people are still suffering. They are still uh, not. They are still getting discriminated. They are still getting denied for basic healthcare. Uh, I would say that it's a good thing. It's a start. It's a good start. That at least people now, the trans community have something that legal support is there, which is backing them, that no one can deny you based on your gender identity, right? But discrimination is still there, and law changing one piece of paper, it will take some time. It will, I'm not saying that it's useless. Of course it's very useful, but the impact, I would say that it will come. I don't see there the drastic impact. If you see that in last decade, if you ask me, that people are still suffering there, so there is no drastic impact there.
So what I'm picking up from you, Aditya, is that legally, yes, there has that recognition has come, but socially recognition has not come. The discrimination continues, and there's still a lot that needs to be done in that space.
Yes, and legal also not sync, no, Anupama. Like Nalsa judgment came in 2014, but today also, if someone want to change their documentation, it is not happening as per Nalsa.
Yeah, yeah. And the bill also, I think there are contradictions to what the Nalsa has also laid out.
So bill has, like, the rules, when the rules came, they have rectified a lot of things, but still they are streamlining their process. I'm not saying that government not doing anything. They are doing something. But where is that impact is happening? If you ask me about the impact, then I don't see that there's a major impact there.
Okay. Shubha, what do you think?
Sorry, I think it's been a time of great change and great sort of course, many challenges. And the change you can see in terms of, uh, on one, like what Anubhuti said about the visibility, but trans people actually have always been visible. They've been visible because they've been on the streets and we've all seen them. And so in fact, in the LGBT movement, it's the trans people who've been the most visible. But the problem was they were hyper visible in some spaces, but they were invisible, as Anubhuti said. They were invisible in many spaces like policies or in employment or things like that. So they were hyper visible on one side and invisible on the other side. But in 10 years, I feel that things have changed in the sense of, I think the biggest change has been the number of leaders who have emerged from the community. 10, 15 years ago, we would have 1, 2, 3, 4 people that we could talk of that, were like leaders from the community. But now you can see trans people getting into every space. I mean, you can talk about employment, you can talk about politics, you can talk about religious organizations, you can talk about media, so various institutions, educational institutions, health organizations, very, very varied. Trans people are making a contribution far bigger than their number. They're really punching above their weight. So, and under very challenging circumstances. So they're making this change. They're going there. They, into all these spheres, even when those spheres are not very conducive or open to them. So they're struggling with all the challenges, but definitely getting little more support than they were before. And that has also been that the community has learned to organize itself better to support each other. There's been far more access to resources, both in terms of NGOs and funding and all that, but also self-organized kind of things where people support each other. So you can see this reflected in something that people have started, whether it's what Simran is doing, what Aditya is doing. Everybody is doing it in their organization of supporting each others to come in, and Anubhuti is doing it in Tata Steel to move forward together. So I think this is the big shift that has happened in 10 years. It wasn't there 10 years ago.
So that's a big one. So basically, you're saying that the shift is in you seeing more leaders emerging, and yeah, clearly this panel is a reflection of that shift which has taken place. And there is a lot of collective movement which is happening. So a lot of support for each other. Simran, what is your view? And you actively work in this space.
So I think Anubhuti, Shubha, Aditya, have really spoken my mind, basically what I wanted to put on the table. Just adding to what they have said, I just wanted to put one thing that has really changed is the mindset of the mainstream society. Initially, like what Shubha just mentioned, initially, transgender, the entire umbrella term was only depicted as one who was seen on the street. Now that mindset has changed of the society that yes, there exists a trans man, there exists a trans woman, there exists a gender non-conforming individual, and the spectrum goes on. So that's the change which I see within the society's mindset, and it is all due to the recognition from the highest court that deliberated such forums that has opened up for each and every human being. So this is what I see.
Okay, so you clearly seeing a mindset shift which has taken place. And I think, yes, because you do see a lot of trans people, like Shubha said, in all spheres. And you have trans people who also been awarded one of the highest honors like the Padma Shri. So that is a clear recognition for the community. Vihan, what is your view? You've done so much work right from Kerala to now you're in Bengaluru. I'm sure you're making some moves here also. So what's the shift that you have noticed?
Sure, I think the other panelists captured it quite well. I would just say, I touch upon what each have said from my own experience, right? I'm someone I consider myself extremely privileged, and I because I couldn't deal with the social conditions and where I couldn't come out and be myself, I was privileged enough to go abroad and complete my education and work there. But when I realized that the social and legal progress in transgender inclusion in India, with the launch of the transgender policy in Kerala, I came back thinking that because the media reports were quite rosy, right? And I was thinking, oh my God, my state is so cool. Like everything is done. I can just go back, complete my legal and medical transition and just start my life fresh. But and this was in 2016. This was 2 years after the NALSA judgment and 1 year after the launch of the state transgender policy in Kerala, right? So when I came back, I was literally shocked because no one knew that, let alone the transgender policy, they didn't know that trans men existed. So for me, going to a government office, it was a task for me to educate them, saying that there are trans men also. And they don't have to look a certain way. Because and even today I hear this, right? Like, oh, you don't look trans. And so I'm like, so then I counter that saying, oh, sorry, I forgot to wear my label when I came out, right? So, these are, and you hear this, that so to Aditya's point, even now awareness is not there, right? So, and I just want to, to that point, just highlight that a lot of time, and this is obviously a media's fault as well, what is quoted from the NALSA judgment is that the NALSA judgment recognized transgender people as a third gender. This is actually incorrect. The main point from the NALSA judgment is that it gave us the right to self-identify our gender as man, woman, or transgender. And third gender is only in reference to the community of the Hijra community, basically, who wanted to be recognized as the third gender. So if you see, there are, under the transgender spectrum, there are a lot of people who do not identify with the term third gender. Right. So I just wanted to clarify that. So just coming to my point, when, on ground, even today, the reality is very different, right? So to Aditya's point, when you go to change your gender markers, it is still a struggle. I had to strip at 3 different hospitals, show my bare body, to get a medical certificate to change my gender marker. This was after the NALSA judgment that upheld our right to self-identify our gender. Right. So from 2016, that is how I actually came into advocacy to change this process. Right. And in Kerala, the process was changed despite having a transgender policy only in 2018. Right. And since then, obviously, trans people are still not asked for medical board certificates. They can self-identify their gender. Now, with the Transgender Act that came in, initially there was a huge issue because that went against the statute of self-identification. Right. But to Aditya's point, with a lot of advocacy and lobbying, and there were revisions to the rules. Now it has come to a point that you don't have to show any medical certificate as such, or it is self-identification. But again, it is far beyond implementation. Right. So now, how is this consistently getting implemented across states that tomorrow, if a trans person wants to change their gender marker, the process is quite simple. How do they go to the district magistrate, fill in an application, and get this certificate without any harassment? Now, when you go into a district magistrate office, there are different people that you have to get through to get this process completed. Is every person, right from the security guard, sensitized to treat you with respect when you go to the district magistrate office? And this is just one example, right? So there are starting a bank account, going to the post office or any place. Every place is not sensitized the same way, right? There is progress, definitely. From the last 10 years, there is progress. And a big example of that is that in Kerala itself, before 2015, there might be people that you could count on your 5 fingers that we could say as trans people in the state. Everyone used to migrate to Bangalore, Chennai, Bombay, because in Bangalore, definitely Karnataka was more inclusive with having a lot of community-based organizations who would give them shelter and protect. Right. In Kerala, there was it. But once the state transgender policy started getting implemented, over the years, we started people who were living in Karnataka and other states coming back to Kerala because, the government was more supportive and giving out more welfare benefits. So there is a shift. To everyone's point, yes, in corporate places, in whether it is getting recognition as awards or in media, and we are making ourselves visible, but there is still a long way to go. To reach a place where we say there is completely no stigma and we are completely safe and we are in a completely inclusive place.
Thanks, Vihan. So thanks also firstly to educate on the NALSA judgment part of it, and also to clearly emphasize the effort that is still required to be done. So while there's a legal recognition, but I think what Aditya also touched upon, the social growth has not happened at the pace that it should happen, and there's a lot of work which needs to be done. I think another important point that you touched upon was the trans men. I think for the longest time, transgender was always associated with either hijra or community or trans women, but the existence of trans men, awareness about trans men is also, I think, very recent. And a lot of conversations. I think a lot of now there are organizations like Tweet Foundation, for example, which has got equal representation of trans men and trans women. And that's again something which we've seen recently. So moving to a corporate, since like 3 of you belong to corporate. So what kind of efforts are companies taking to include transgender people? I know there are openings, there are lots of pride, job fairs, etc. taking place, but how do you see this really panning out in companies? If anyone can take the initiative.
Yeah, so there are companies, like there are a lot of companies who are coming forward now. Like in the corporate, it is there that 5 years back or 10 years back, if you see, companies were not actively hiring a trans people. But now they are coming forward and asking and saying that, okay, now we want to hire people, and they are connecting with NGOs as well. Again, like I don't know if I'm playing the devil's advocate, but again, the thing is that the mindset of the company is like that only. Okay, we want to hire, but only in housekeeping roles. We want to hire, but only in certain roles. So mindset is not there that, okay, trans person can also be a leader. the trans person can also be CEO of the company. So that mindset is not there. Now if I'm saying that, if you're saying that actively hiring, now if you ask me, the ideal society where you don't need that, you provide that ecosystem that people feel comfortable applying for that organization, for any sort of organization, right? So as of now, affirmative actions are happening from lot of companies, but still again there is lot of work to be done, because we feel that okay, a trans person is fit for only for housekeeping role or office administrator role. But if you give them the engineer profile and say that okay, hire them as a senior engineer, they are reluctant. They say that no, role is not open. But role is open for other people. No, cisgender, cis hetero no, people, it is there, it is open. Then why can't you hire a trans person for that particular role? So that entire thing, I think that mindset is not happening.
So you're saying there's a lot of stereotyping and thinking that only certain roles are all that a trans person can manage or is fit for.
See, I am seeing this as a like, my competitor is hiring for inclusion effort, I have to hire for inclusion, and I have to showcase something there. Now if you are truly inclusive, if anyone is truly inclusive, they would hire with the good spirit. They would say that okay, the 5 roles are open, and we are equal opportunity employer, and of course provide that platform.
Okay, Vihan, what do you think about this?
So there are two ways of looking at this, right? So yes, in the last 2 to 3 years, I would say increasingly we've seen companies come out, with inclusive policies for transgender people, very focused hiring efforts. But for me, something that I've always talked about is that hiring should be secondary, right? If you look at India, and this is stats, right? Like any given population, 5 to 8% is LGBT. So by default in your organization, you have trans people, right? So what are you doing to make your culture better, that your LGBT employees, specifically your trans employees, feel comfortable coming out or seeking assistance from you? Like I'm someone who has 12 plus years of experience from the corporate, right? But yet when I decided to medically transition, I had to quit my job. And so is the case for 90% of trans people in India. They quit their job, complete their legal and medical transition, and then go join another company. So definitely there is a career gap, right? So somewhere, if you look at a trajectory of any person, someone who has 12 plus years of experience is somewhere at a senior level management, right? I'm still at mid-level management because I have that gap in my career where I couldn't, I took that for myself, a hiatus. And wherever I went for a job, I couldn't tell them explicitly why I took that career gap, right? Because that means I was outing myself and they didn't have LGBT inclusive policy. So I always had to make up some story. And this is the case for every trans person, right? You lie, you can't tell the truth. But when I joined Goldman Sachs, that was the first time in my life I had the most liberating interview experience where I could talk through why I took that career, right? And they were like, oh, okay, thanks for sharing that. Right, so it was just like any other interview, like for any other person, right? So I would say internally the culture, increasing or improving your culture is something that matters. Making sure that you have inclusive policies and your LGBT employees or your trans employees feel comfortable coming in seeking help, right? Whether it is counseling, whether it is wanting to transition, being able to talk to their managers about it. That is where most efforts need to be made, right? So it's one thing, okay, hiring efforts can happen simultaneously, which can happen. And to Aditya's point, it should happen at all levels. So there's still that stigma that, okay, yes, a lot of trans people have been, couldn't complete the education. But there is still, even within the trans community, there are different levels, right? There are people who have completed the education, who have work experience. So how are you making spaces for them in your organization? Right. So to look at it holistically is something that I think corporates need to do, and also ensure that hiring is one, but integration, paying attention on integrating that person into the firm and setting up for success is something that they need to pay attention to, right? Because we've had, and I'll give you the perfect example, is the Kochi Metro in Kerala, right? So it was hailed all over the world, saying the first organization to hire trans people. But within 1 month of hiring, they hired more than 60 people. 50% left, and then the government was like, oh, we do you a favor. Actually, no one is doing us a favor. right? You're hiring, and if you give us a space to thrive, we will excel. But if trans people are leaving the job, you need to look internally. Is there a gap internally that a person is leaving in you, right? And this was a case, right? On a monthly salary was 6,000 rupees, and most of these trans people won't get a place to rent as homes, and so they stay in lodges, and the per rate room rent is 600 to 800 rupees. So just imagine in a month their salary is not enough to even pay rent. What about food and other expenses? So a lot of people left the job because of that. So for us organizations to also look internally and analyze, are we actually setting up trans people for success, is something that I think still a lot of corporates need to pay attention to.
Yeah. I think I completely agree with that. And I see some of the salary structures and really wonder, like, how will trans people survive on that salary? Anubhuti, tell me your experience at Tata Steel and in a manufacturing setup to have established LGBT network and working as a trans person. What has been your experience?
Thanks, and such wonderful thoughts by Aditya and Vihan, which really covered much of what I would have covered here anyway. But I would probably be able to add a perspective in which how do companies create a leadership structure or leadership roles in which trans people or LGBTQ people in general can thrive in. Because I have always been in Tata Steel. My particular experience was that I was in Tata Steel. I found myself in a manufacturing setup where I found that there were hardly any conversations about LGBTQ people, about trans people, and even people within the organization who I cautiously started to come out to. Most of them were were of the opinion that this would never be in a culture of an Indian company or a culture of a manufacturing company, which is where I really decided that this is where we are going wrong, or this is where a lot of the workplaces, when they create their culture, are not able to identify what our real culture or what our real workplace culture is. Indian workplaces have always been very, very inclusive of a very diverse array of people. We do not have as much, as much representation of a particular group in overall workplaces as we do in other countries. However, what we have forgotten is that in our efforts to become more and more effective and more efficient, we have started to neglect the diversity that exists within the organizations. I can tell you that Tata Steel, where I work for and where I started to talk about LGBTQ and trans people issues for the first time, had actually on my research had actually hired trans people in the 80s. In the late 80s, there were a very large force of a very large workforce, in fact, a whole shift in our manufacturing organization, which was run by trans people. Then coming from there, it was changed into a very stigmatized form in which that particular group was in some ways stigmatized, criminalized in certain ways, and it was completely stopped. And this is something that I found out, and it took 30 years from there, or took 25 years from there, for us to start that conversation again. So what we have generally done is that it's not that we have not done this before, it's not that we have not included people before, but what has happened is that we've stopped including them. So what I found in my organization, when there was a respect for individual, there are areas in which trans people can express themselves, can take up leadership roles, and even take up positions like Aditya was mentioning, that engineering roles and roles in which when companies don't generally hire trans people in, because this stereotype is extremely strong. I will say that even in my company, where I am working in in a managerial role, in a role in which I'm working in analytics, but when people are hiring for trans people, they're hiring again in housekeeping roles, in call center roles, which is completely in every which way, which is completely illogical. So this kind of illogical, I would say, culture that has been created, that trans people should be hired for these particular roles because they've been found to be hired by our competitors in those roles. I think this is the mentality that all the companies should start breaking, should start understanding that it is their culture that is being hurt by taking steps like this, by making steps like this. And what again Aditya mentioned is very correct, is that once we hire trans people, once we have trans people within our organization, we've created, we've not created them. We need to create, all the infrastructure and all the, basic, we need to check all the basic boxes. But once we have that, how do we make sure that this fosters? How do we make sure that other organizations can see you as a leader? And that is when trans people and LGBTQ people in positions of leadership would be able to really contribute. Because as of now, I don't think by hiring people at such levels, there is any contribution. The whole fillip of diversity is that we are able to bring in ideas, bring in thoughts which were not there before. But by keeping them in a position where there are no thoughts, where there are no decision-making abilities, by keeping in such positions, we are really stunting the I would say the real next growth that we can see. Coming to the kind of times that we are in, it's been seen that a lot of what we considered good and holy has been broken down by how the world is right now. We live in a very volatile, very I would say a very uncertain kind of a world. So I think at this point, a bit of queerness will help. A bit of queerness will help all organizations. So my request to everyone who's watching is that not only hire more queer people, let them lead, let them take over. I mean, pass on the mic, because this is, to quote a famous wrestler as John Cena, is that this is our time, and it is our time to take the center stage and try and make the changes that we have seen our lives through.
Thanks, Anubhuti, and I hope like everybody who's listening, picks up this point that is being shared. Simran, I want to ask you, you do like so much, through RWS and also through John Hopkins, like especially RWS, I want to understand from you, what has been like, what are some of the challenges when it comes to giving opportunities to transgender people?
I think the common challenges that one faces while hiring a trans individual has two sides of a coin. One side of the coin is the notion that trans people are not capacitated or inadequate as far as their competency are concerned. One is that notion, which we really struggle when we sort of approach between the market and the supply. That gone are the days when you could only see trans people doing backhand work and not be at the forefront. So a lot of lobbying takes place at that angle. The second side of the coin is also from the community, that the acceptance level that yes, there are few companies, there are few corporates, there are few organizations which sort of puts trans people at the so-called higher positions based on their competency, based on their calibers, and they're given equal opportunity. But there is a refrain from the community that, nahi, if I am identified as a trans person, I cannot even imagine sitting at that position. So I see the coin from both the side. There is lesser demand. I don't say there is no demand, but there is a lesser demand when organizations or corporates approach for LGBTQ or specifically for trans community to be, applying for such kind of positions, and trans community refrains. Not many really apply. I don't say none of them apply, but not many apply. And I'm sure this paradigm is changing. So this is what I see from both the angles. How do we approach, how do we sort of, motivate within the community is use the examples of people who are really sitting at the positions where they totally deserve. So we take many names from the community who are sitting at that position, and that gives them the motivation, the courage to really foresee that long vision, to apply at the same time to feel, that yes, I deserve with a dignity. So that is what we practice. Even at the corporate level and the organization level, we set up an example, that that trans people are capable and are deserving to be sitting at the driver's seat and driving the entire movement or the organization or whatever field they are into. So that is right now what we see and what we are doing in spite of the challenges. And Anupama, I'm sorry, but I'm really very optimistic person. I believe in the positive side of the coin rather than dwelling ये नहीं हुआ वो होना चाहिए types. I completely agree, and I completely take the statement and bind the statement. Yes, there isn't enough opportunity been given, but at the same time, I think the doors are opening. The revolution is happening, and right now is the correct time to strike it, since the iron is hot.
Wow, Simran, good. That's spoken like a true role model. And I think that's what you were saying, that we need to have more trans role models. And you don't have to be apologetic about being optimistic. I think that's a great quality for sure. Shubha, how do you perceive this change in the corporate scenario? You also place trans people, you sensitize corporates. So what have you noticed? And also I want to ask a question on, I know that, like there is a lot of a large, especially in the Hijra community, many have not completed education. The education levels are also not really like, where you can look at top positions. So how does that impact this whole agenda is also something which I'd like to understand.
So I think it's important to understand, trans inclusion along with other axes, because some of the issues are particular to people from different socioeconomic backgrounds. So if you come from non-English speaking background where you've left home very early, then what happens is your options have shrunk already. Right? Because the way, once you have a graduation or whatever, then it's so when companies approach us and they say, oh, other things being equal, we'll be happy to take a trans person in. And I keep saying other things are not equal. If they were equal, then there's no need of any of this. Other things are not equal. The dice is loaded already against people from the queer community in terms of, the kind of, see, a lot of times what happens, your social capital comes from your family. Your family networks open certain doors for you. So if your family has rejected you, if your connections with your family is not so great, you cannot use that. Or if you use that, you're scared that your family will get to know about your identity, so you have to hide your identity. So you have to make a choice between, do I want to be open and lose that connection? Do I want to use those connections and hide my identity, which means I lead a double life, I'm not very productive, a lot of other things that come out of it. So there's that set of issues. The set of issues of many trans people have learned on the job. They've run CBOs, they've done many other things, but there's no certification, there's no formal. And so I think corporates should move beyond this formal education, qualification, which is not education, it's qualification. Many of us are highly qualified and lowly educated. So I don't place much store on this qualification. So you have to see if the person can do the job, and there's so many jobs that you don't need some high level of I obviously, yeah, I'm not saying somebody you just say, okay, come on, go and be a surgeon tomorrow because you can learn on the job. No, nobody is being stupid, but there are so many things that how did many of us, I mean, what I'm doing now, I didn't learn half of it in that MSW that I did. Yeah, I learned most of it because someone had the patience to sit with me and show me how to do it. So how come we don't afford those same chances to other people that we give ourselves or got ourselves? So that is all I think we should demand. We should demand that you stop placing this emphasis on silly qualifications and start looking at people's skills, aptitude, etc. And then, of course, there's a process to do it. And that the onus has to be on the company. You can't say you come and fit in. You have to say, what am I going to do in terms of making it happen? And very few companies are doing that. Most companies are saying, here we have everything, you come and fit in. And that proves to be very difficult. And in fact, I want to write a blog where I'm going to say either too trans or not trans enough. That's what I'm going to call my blog. Because what companies are asking us when we go is, some of them are talking about some person and saying, but this person doesn't look really very trans. You see, we want to showcase, so we want a really trans looking person. This person doesn't look trans enough, so that person doesn't qualify because they're not trans enough. Some other person is too trans, very obviously trans, so we don't want, everyone will know. So it seems like we have to, like Goldilocks or something, we have to get the right mix of transness in the person. So I think companies should also, I'm sorry for like being a little this thing, but there has been lots of conversations have to happen, which hopefully will happen with an open mind, where companies are able to say, we're making mistakes, we don't know, let's hear, let's listen. And the other thing I want to say quickly, I know time, we're running out of time, is that some of the companies that have adopted LGBT inclusion, it has come because they headquarters in somewhere in US or somewhere in this pressure from headquarters to do something, which is good. I mean, I think pressure from anywhere is good if it moves you on the right path. But I think you have to also start understanding how it operates in an Indian context and start changing your responses. Some of the things that you do in the West don't quite make sense in India or don't fit in India. We have to find our own rhythm. We have to find our own idioms. We have to find our own ways. And this is a conversation we need to have. So I, just want to end with saying that.
Yeah, thanks, Shubha. I think, yes, Simran, go ahead.
I think I just wanted to add to one, and I'm sorry, Shubha, you triggered this in me. So I just wanted to place this one incident that I recently changed to my job after 10 years. And I was really very upfront in saying that I will not give my education qualification certificates to the HR. And my HR did understand. It is also a time where community has to put in. And they very simply asked me that why, what is the reason? And I was very bold enough to tell them that my certificate names haven't been changed. It's still still existing with my biological name, and I don't relate to those certificates. So I will not produce those certificates. Is it okay? And there are companies which understands, and today I'm at the position, at a managemental position, and companies do understand. So it is also from the community's perspective that you have to educate and keep on educating. I mean, even unfortunately, things are not known to people, and it is we who have to take the onus to set the path. So as Shubha mentioned that, at times there are many things which are rigid, but it is also our duty to really open up the doors and open up the gateways.
Important point.
Could not resist.
That's an important point, that how much are we able to push and work with, and yeah.
Thanks, Simran. Very quickly, I know we are running out of time. Just want to ask Vihan, Anubhuti, and Aditya, like, what kind of policies or practices are there in your organizations which clearly look at making the environment trans inclusive?
Like I mentioned earlier, the focus is more internally towards enhancing the culture, right, where LGBT people can just be themselves and feel safe. So there are numerous programs that we run internally, from a state talk program where we have divisional senior leaders conducting divisional talks with employees about workplace scenarios where they can be more inclusive of LGBT people. There is a reverse mentoring program that we run where we have LGBT employees mentoring senior leaders so that they understand what it is like to be an LGBT employee, and they kind of take away learnings for them to kind of work on in the workplace itself. We facilitate town halls and anonymous dial-ins for community members, for employees to kind of talk about challenges that they face on the ground, and that's also action points for us to kind of take back and work on, right? And this serves as a feedback mechanism, providing ally flags, for people to demonstrate visible allyship to the community, from whether it's ally flags on your desk, you're putting your pronouns on your email signature, just talking about it every day, make spaces for people to talk about, allyship is something that we focus on. I think Goldman Sachs is one of the companies that raises the transgender flag every year on Transgender Day of Remembrance. Last year, when I joined in 2019, and I was in tears when I saw, this huge group of people come together to raise the transgender flag. And this is something that we do every year. So it makes a huge difference. Whether there are questions always, asked in organizations, do we have trans people? You do. It's a fact. And for me, just standing there and just thinking, I mean, it was an act. Might be a lot of the people who got there might be not everyone understands the importance of Transgender Day of Remembrance, but I remembered every friend or every person that I knew who lost their life due to hate crimes or violence, and that made me stand there and went up in tears. So it makes a huge difference. And I think also I just like to highlight some of the policies that we have. Some of the most progressive policies. Gender affirmation coverage is definitely there, and it's included in the overall health insurance program. But as of 2019, we've also made some key enhancements where, all new parents, whether through birth, surrogacy, or adoption, will receive the same paid parenting leave time, regardless of gender or caregiver status, right? So this is as per, this would be 26 weeks of leave as per India. So anyone, whether regardless of gender, gets that. There's a new program called Pathways to Parenthood, which has been introduced, which increases existing stipends for adoption and surrogacy and introduces new stipends for egg retrieval and egg donation where permitted by law. So this is also a huge deal for trans community members. Many of us who long to settle down with partners and start our own families. And also the firm also has introduced 4 weeks of paid family care leave for employees, and obviously over here the definition of family is not heteronormative or as per what is as per society. So family is who you choose, and which is what means if in the transgender community, a lot of us have chosen families. So getting this paid family care leave makes a huge difference when when we have a chosen mother or a chosen sister falling ill or in the hospital for various reasons, for us to go there and take care of them as well.
There's really some amazing policies, Vihan, and I think a lot for all of us to learn from. Anubhuti, tell us a little bit about Tata Steel and what it is like in a, and
Definitely.
yeah.
So definitely, I mean, there is a bit of a context here. I think that a lot of the multinational organizations, they already have a lot of the policies polished up in a lot of the Western countries. But we in Tata Steel, we decided to have a very Indian kind of a perspective of how we do trans inclusion, and it also started mostly in a very manufacturing focused scenario, because understanding that manufacturing is different from an office job. There are going to be people in a lot of positions which you cannot imagine probably in an office job. So one of the most heartening changes that we did, and which I'm very proud of, is that one of the most important things is having the infrastructure available for trans people. That is, if I'm to be blunt, it is say washrooms which trans people can use, gender neutral washrooms. What we noticed is that in our corporate offices we did have a gender neutral washroom. It was not a big lot of problem, but our manufacturing plant is a very large area, and there might be people employed in very very different places. So we kind of decided a certain space, certain distance over which there has to be a gender neutral washroom, regardless of whatever. And we made sure that we found those places, we identified those places, we converted older washrooms if they needed to be, and we made sure that it was available for everyone. Another idea was that we tried to make a lot of the language that we had and a lot of the words that people use in general basis gender neutral. So something that Vihan mentioned was, having something like an adoption leave. So we made the adoption leave, gender neutral, available for everyone, especially for trans people. We made a change to our honeymoon policy, which basically gives a honeymoon possibility for anyone in the queer, entire queer spectrum, without having to have any gendered partners only. It is for everyone. The honeymoon policy was something that did catch a lot of attention. It has been found that there are people who have joined the organization due to these policies. Another most important thing that we did, that you probably mentioned earlier on, is having an LGBT resource group. Having a resource group in a manufacturing organization wasn't the first thing that people would have thought of, but it was something that in my experience I found was very very important. Hence it was the first thing that I made sure was there, and having this sort of a safe space has seen a lot of change in the organization. There have been a lot of queer people who have been there in the organization for a long period of time, who've been able to come out. Now it is a testament of how good these policies are that we even had a person from the manufacturing location who works as an engineer, who came out in spite of knowing that their environment may not be very conducive, but we made sure that there was enough sensitization provided to their workplace, and we were happily surprised to see that inclusion was already there. We sort of underestimate a lot. We underestimate ourselves a lot. What I realized in my experience of working is that part of it is policies, but much of it is it is about feelings, it is about culture, and bringing that to the table makes a huge difference for people to feel really belonging to a workplace. I have always worked for Tata Steel, so I belong to this workplace. I feel belonging in this workplace. So I think that is a testament that I can say. I would definitely hope for some certain other changes that could be made, but as of now, this is what we have.
Thanks, Anubhuti. Aditya, I know you're getting delayed also, so very quickly from you as well.
Yeah. So at ThoughtWorks, we believe is that it's a solidarity over charity. So what we have done in past, or what we are doing, is that we partnered with Periphery and we helped them to put together and conceptualize together the Pragna, the transgender mentoring program. And the ThoughtWorkers were the first one who mentored them for over the 3 to 5 months. And we conceptualized, we designed that program, we helped them to design that entire program. Then about this program called Revive. Under Revive, what we have done is that it was ThoughtWorks has helped the Periphery to conduct 1 month residential training specifically for trans individual, and then we conducted the job fair where 13 companies were participant, and there were 35 people who have participated, and all of them got hired. So we believe is that it's solidarity over charity, and where we build an ecosystem which is and we are helping them to empower. If you ask me about the policy, of course we have this policy because transition at workplace policy, where we provide where the Gender affirmation surgeries are covered under the medical insurance. We provide additional leave for people who are going for a gender affirmation surgery. We also have connect with some other NGOs and CBOs, and where people who want to connect with them, we provide that external support beyond workplace. And of course, all the offices have gender neutral restroom. We provide a safe space for their gender expression, and even at ThoughtWorks office, even at client location as well. Of course, the post policy is gender neutral. And one of the things that currently I'm doing is that interning with Pride program. I don't know how many of you are aware about it. It's an internship program for people who belong to LGBTQ community. So if you have not, if anyone who is belong to a tech community or have a passion for a tech community, can go to ThoughtWorks page and apply for that program. And that is our way to create an ecosystem which is inclusive for everyone. Thanks.
Aditya, thank you so much for sharing about the policies as well as what you're doing externally to help the community get opportunities, skill them, and get opportunities in other organizations. Thank you so much, Vihan, Anubhuti, Simran, Shubha, of course, for this very, very interesting conversation where we really looked at the whole shift from in the decade, the kind of movement that's happened. You've also spoken in the companies that the fact that opportunities need to be open, look more at what is the skill they have, what are their interests, and what is the aspiration, I think, that people have, rather than only look at, do they have the right, those kind of qualifications, the paper, the certificates, because many may not have the certificate, but they will still have the every other skill required to really execute that particular job. So look at that potential which is existing in an individual. I think some very fabulous policies that all three organizations have, and companies who are here and who are just getting into starting the LGBTQ inclusion journey. I think there's a lot that they could pick up from here. So thank you so much for being here in this panel and for sharing your views.
Thank you so much, Anupama, for being such a wonderful moderator. And with each one of you, we can actually spend 1 hour each.
Yes.
As a separate masterclass in trans inclusivity, for sure. But really, really appreciate each one of you taking your time and enlightening us with such wonderful views. Really thanks to each one of you for making this happen. And bye-bye. And I just hope all of you are able to join the film screenings and watch LGBTQ films and enjoy the show. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sridhar, for the opportunity.